So we are redoing several, not all, but quite a few of the rookies for the draft class. After I went back and looked, I just was not satisfied with the quality of faces. But I didn't really want to kind of go through remaking the whole thing because I want to get this draft class out to you guys as soon as possible. So I did something that I usually don't do. And I was real skeptical about it at first. But what I did was I went looking on, the share to see who had already made a roster. And I recognized a guy who I'd actually talked to before, I believe via YouTube or text or something, I can't remember. But it's Embrace the Pace, and he has actually the most downloaded roster out there. So I pulled up his roster, and the guy really knows a lot about basketball, I can tell. I didn't agree with everything that he had, and also I thought, I kind of disagreed with us. Well, I shouldn't say disagreed, but I had a different take on some of the faces. So I thought, whatever I do with that, I'll, kind of make over to some of the faces, or, see if I can improve on some of the faces, or pretty much all of them, because I want to change something about everyone, because I don't want to take exactly what he did. So I'm going to change something about everyone, more or less, because I kind of see it a little bit different. In terms of visually, and then from statistically, I have an actual formula, of course, that I use. But I was impressed with the ratings that he had, because some of what he had came to about what I had, but my ratings were a little bit. I think my ratings are coming out a little bit lower, and that's probably because I'm using straight statistics for almost every single category. I had a formula last year, but I'll be honest with you. The formula this year I think is even better than it was last year. I'm not going to break down the whole formula in one video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to basically go over pieces of the formula in every video. That'll keep it kind of moving. So let's jump right into it. This, of course, is Jahlil Okafor. A lot of people believe he's going to be the number one pick. But funny thing is, in the latest NBA Draft.net mock draft, they have Karl Anthony Towns of Kentucky going number one. So I don't know who's going to go, who's going to be there or what. But what we'll do here is we'll look at, the vital stuff, of course, is right. I use skin tone 4. I think he's a little lighter than skin tone 3, so I changed that. Looking at the body, 6'11", 272 pounds. He's a biggin. He is a biggin. And then we look at the attributes. I gave him a 76 overall. I'm kind of just going to flip through some of this stuff, some of the most important stuff. But let me talk about, let's do like three ratings per episode. So let's talk about standing layup. Now, you see Okafor got a standing layup rating of an 85. So how did he get that? Well, I have access to some advanced statistics. So based off of what I've pulled up, Jahlil Okafor, if you take a look at the at a statistic called field goal percentage at the rim. So basically that's defined within like 3 to 5 feet of the rim. What field goal percentage does a player shoot in that, at that distance? So it's a really good stat, very, very good stat for standing layup. And Jahlil Okafor's field goal percentage at the rim is 75.2%, which is really good. So my formula for that particular rating, is field goal percentage at the rim plus 10. So Jahlil Okafor, 75.2% plus 10 is 85. So this is how I got the standing layup rating. Feel like that's pretty good, because what you don't want to have, I don't want to have a rookie necessarily getting a 95, 96, because it doesn't leave them anywhere to go, as if you play through years of your My League or My GM. So you got to leave them somewhere where to go. And most rookies are not going to come in as a 90 something in most any category anyway, unless it's athleticism, which is pure what it is you don't hone it. You either can jump or you can't, kind of a thing. All right, so let's look at driving layup, right? This is a little bit trickier. The bigger guys don't have high driving layup ratings. So you see the guards and the small forwards more or less with the high driving layups. So this I use field goal percentage at the rim, but If you're a center, minus 15. If you are with, so this is a little bit off. I have to change that. It's actually supposed to be 60. If you're a power forward, it's minus 10. If you're a small forward, it's plus 15. If you're a guard, it's plus 20. So, say for instance, by some stretch of the imagination, which you would never see this with a guard, field goal percentage at the rim was 75. His rating for driving layup would be 95. Now, don't compare this to like, an NBA player, because if it was an NBA player, I would handle this differently, because I wouldn't have to compensate for them getting better. I could just take the number as it is because they've already played in the NBA. But because these are college players and international players, I have to do some sort of leave it there open for projection. So that's what that's about. So now the last rating I'm going to talk about in this particular episode is the post fade. So I got field goal percentage for 2-point jump shots. So I got that statistic. For Jahlil Okafor, his field goal percentage for 2-point jump shots is actually really high for a big, especially. He's shooting 52.7% on 2-point jump shots. That means he can shoot he really can shoot the mid-range jump shot. But we're talking about fadeaways, so of course that's a little bit different. But I take the 52.7% for the field goal percentage on 2-point jump shots, and I add, I add 10 points to that. So that takes him up to a 63. Now, I don't want to get it too high, because every 2-point jump shot you take is not a fadeaway. Obviously, a fadeaway is a tougher shot, so we want to kind of hold that down a little bit. Now, say, for instance, he was a small forward. I would leave it as it is. So if it's 52.7, it'd be a 53. If he's a guard, I'd subtract 5, because obviously the big guys are more guys who are more equipped to shoot the fadeaways, that sort of thing. So I'm going to give, every rating is going to ultimately end up me giving a detailed thing, and I'm also going to get into tendencies too, because those are important. But we're going to roll through it that way. So I'm going to show you the other two guys in the episode, in this episode, but I'm not going to get into their ratings. But Jahlil Okafor was kind of under the microscope for this one. So let's take a look at the next guy. This is Brandon Ashley of the Arizona Wildcats. Power forward, small forward, more of a power forward than anything. 6'8", 230 pounds. Wingspan. I'm going to talk about wingspan. Probably talk about wingspan in the next episode. But I will tell you heights and weights. I wasn't going to go into all of this, but heights and weights, ages, and wingspans, I'm getting from Draft Express primarily. Can't get it there, stat sheet. If not, there, ESPN or Eurobasket. So that's that. But let's take a look at the ratings for Brandon Ashley. Got him a 63 overall. He's pretty much projected as, if he does come out this year, he's going to be undrafted or a early mid to some sort of second round pick. But he's the kind of dude that gets into some draft camps, or if he has a big NCAA tournament, he could turn some stuff around. Arizona's in position for him to, do a little bit of damage there. So that is that for him. Not too much crazy stuff in terms of the signature stuff, but he does have some hops. He can get up a little bit, so we had to make sure that his dunks were kind of on point, not just the basic stuff. A little bit more than the basic. But that's that for him. Like I said, 63. Since I've been redoing this, or actually doing ratings, because when I did the first ones, I wasn't really happy with a lot of the faces. Some of the faces were real cool, like Justice Winslow and those guys, but some of them not that good, so I got to redo some of those. But so far, since I've been doing ratings, Brandon Ashley's got the lowest rating of anybody that I've done. Let's take a look at the last. Got Karl Anthony Towns, who I mentioned a little bit earlier, skilled 7-footer, a part of the undefeated Kentucky Wildcats. At least they're undefeated as of right now. We'll find out. You might see this video a little bit later on and be like, they're not undefeated, as if they lose in the tournament. But as of the recording of this video, they were still undefeated. 7 foot, 248 pounds. Has a 7 foot 3.5 inch wingspan, but for a 7 footer, that's not that long. It's, don't get me wrong, it's not crazy, not short at all, but so that's why his arms aren't crazy long. Based on this here. So let's take a look at the overall. I gave him a 74. He's got definitely has some potential or whatever, but he's not a freak athlete. So, and then since everything I'm doing is statistical based, some of the Kentucky Wildcats, especially a guy like Towns, who's not a spectacular athlete, the ratings could get held down a little bit because they share so much. But that's why I didn't take points per game as a statistic or rebounds per game as much. I use things like rebound percentage and steal percentage, and I'll show you a little bit more of that as this series moves on. So you'll see how I kind of did to kind of compensate for players who play on really talented teams where they're not scoring or doing as much as they could if they were on worse teams. So I kind of got that covered. Take a look at the signature stuff for Karl Anthony Towns. I don't know. I don't know. Is he gonna? I don't know. I guess it depends on who gets the number one pick, but I could see him going ahead of Okafor because he's longer. Neither of them are great athletes, but I think he probably is a little bit better athlete than Okafor. So I could ultimately see him at some point going number one, especially if he gets a deep run into the if they get a deep run into the tournament. Now, imagine this. If they get a deep run into the tournament and maybe play Duke in the national championship, head to head, some people might make the assumption that the game is actually for, depending on who plays the best between those two guys, could be deciding who's going to be the number one pick. You never know. So I gave him a few badges: spark plug, swagger. We definitely had to give him eraser. He got defensive anchor. His block shots are impressive. Like, it's not just the amount per game. If you look at a rating called block percentage, he's in like the top 10 in the nation in block percentage, which is basically talks about like what percentage of block shots he actually gets that he is in the vicinity to contest. So it's a pretty cool statistic, and that's why I gave him eraser gold. So that is Karl Anthony Towns, and this is the first update with ratings for the draft class on 2015. I'm going to try to move through it quicker than I did the Ultimate Legends, of course. And it should be quicker because you don't have as many players to make. So I appreciate y'all watching. God bless. Peace.